Welcome, dear sacred soul, to the podcast for the soul. My name is Jun Jared, and I'm your host. This podcast is all about soul evolution, comprehending higher consciousness, integrating more love, more peace, more grace into your being and onto the earth. This podcast is part of the Academy for the Soul. To start your soul evolution journey, we have an online quiz ready for you. It will help you identify which evolutionary stage your soul is at right now. Check it out on academyforthesoul.org. My name is June. It's lovely to connect with you in case we haven't met yet. And I am launching this beautiful podcast with many, many, many intentions, of course. So we'll go on a journey together and just discover a little bit about what this podcast is truly all about, what inspired me and inspires me to share more with you, and what topics this beautiful podcast will entail. Of course, there's always space for expansion, always room for growth, and always new topics coming in. Since I'm not the only one in this podcast, we're going to have a beautiful series of guests coming on as well. So the topic range will be inspired by the consciousness of those people coming in as well. Now, before we dive in, let me share a little bit about the podcast for the soul and the Academy for the Soul with you. Since you've landed here, you might have already checked out our website, academyforthesoul.org. We are a community, a online temple space, one could say, with different formats and modalities in it. In essence, what we do is we guide people on the soul evolutionary journey. Now, let me speak to that for a moment. When I speak of soul, there's many ways that I can describe this. Oftentimes, we speak of the soul as something universal, something cosmic, something untouchable, maybe not really graspable for the mind. So let me try to translate what the soul means to me and what the soul means to us at the Academy. You see, at the Academy for the Soul, we see the soul as the initiate life force energy that is moving through you and keeping your motors going. I always love to say, whatever beats your heart and breathes your breath when you're not doing it, that's the soul. The essence of who you are eternally into eternity. Now, into eternity also means that your soul exists before your human body did and will exist after your human body does. Throughout the conversations we're having in this podcast, you'll learn more and more about the layers of your soul. What does the soul mean for yogis? What are gurus teaching about the soul? What are the spiritual seekers, shamans, earth guardians, guides, light workers, and all other shapes and forms of beings, humans, that serve the earth, serve the heavens, and serve the light within us all, are saying and sharing about the soul. So to me, the soul it's like a little piece of light. And that little piece of light, that little ray of sun, is like a wave in the ocean that moves through existence. And it moves through different shapes and forms of existence. And one of the core principles that we teach at the Academy for the Soul is that your soul's deepest longing and desire is evolution, evolution and growth. Oftentimes, when we look at the teachings of the soul, we also come across the ego. Now, the ego, most of the time known as something bad or interpreted as something bad, also has its purpose, same as the soul. Now, I always love to say the ego is like an identity, it's like a vehicle. It's the vehicle of your identity, the vehicle of your human being, of your humanness. Because every human comes with an identity. We come with a set of skin colors, we come with a set of preferences, we come with an eye color, we come with ways that we dress, We come with hobbies, we come with so many things that individuate ourselves from each other, which makes life colorful and exciting, life on earth. But also, what the ego can do is it can start hijacking and taking home too many parts of your consciousness. It can root in too many cupboards of your mind and your being. In other words, it can occupy yourself and keep you from evolution because you get very comfortable in the ego's preferences of I am like this and that, or I prefer this and that. So, one of the core principles at the Academy for the Soul is we are learning to embrace the soul evolutionary journey through identifying the ego, learning and meeting its voices and its ways to engage, and also learning about its purpose. You see, one of the ego's core purposes is to protect and to stay within what it knows. It's kind of like it's kind of like a child consciousness. And oftentimes that child consciousness stays in the human body, even if the human body becomes adult. The child consciousness of staying stuck in an ego identified version of yourself, a very common issue these days, a very common phenomenon. Little children in adults' bodies. Now, why is this podcast so beautifully essential for all of us? The conversations that we're about to have and we're already having right now are so nourishing for your soul because it starts offering you a different perspective on life, on yourself, and on your experience. Simply imagine this for a moment with me. Imagine your soul, the essence of who you are and who you have always been, a wave in the ocean, a ray of light, a little piece of the sun, a little fragmentation of God's source, is simply experiencing itself through your identity right now, through your humanness right now. So it's split apart from the great source of all to come into and attach to one shape, one reflection, one flavor of itself, and experience life on earth through that lens. Now, feel in your body what that does. That's zooming out, that adopting, and maybe even realizing internally that your soul is simply experiencing itself through your human being. To me, it always gives a sense of ease, a sense of lightness. It gives me the opportunity to zoom out of the drama that I'm experiencing and simply witness more rather than battle and stay engaged in the battlefields of the ego trying to win, trying to be better, the ego being prideful, comparing oneself to another, the ego staying in fear, not growing because it's scared of the next evolutionary stage. It's scared of letting go of what it knows. And that brings us back to the core purpose of the ego is to protect. However, the ego, which one of my gurus, Priya Jain, has taught me, the ego is blind. The ego cannot interpret what is good or what is helpful for the soul journey, and it cannot choose to protect that specific thing. That's where the soul consciousness comes in, the zoomed out perspective comes in, and the lightness and the grace that comes in when we view life from the soul lens, from the evolutionary lens. And from that point or from that place, we welcome evolution rather than pushing it away. We welcome change because we know there is learnings in all. We start initiating on a trip to non-judgment, towards more kindness to all parts of this learning journey. and we remove the filters of judgment from experiences. And that's what the Academy for the Soul, in essence, brings us closer towards. And that's why I created this podcast, because I noticed on social media, short content format, we cannot easily get to the core of such deep teachings. We need some more time. And that's why these conversations and this podcast exist, to give a space for a little more leaning in, a little more surrendering, a little more deeper listening. You see, there's a couple of beautiful words that you'll learn throughout listening to these podcast episodes. One of them I mentioned at the beginning. I greeted you with Sat Nam, which is a Sikh Sanskrit word. Let me explain. The Sikh lineage, or the Sikh religion, is about 500 to 600 years young. It's a very young religious movement. However, I find it expands outside of religion, because what it did throughout its birthing, and its birthing happened through 10 gurus, 10 generations of gurus. Guru, by the way, means teacher. That's all guru means. Spiritual teachers, those were. So they analyzed the Vedic scriptures and the Vedic texts, which are amongst a couple, one of the oldest sequence and series of books on earth. They speak of the technology of yoga, God realization, soul realization, the topics we speak of here as well. And so, what the Sikh gurus did over 10 generations is they translated and they transcribed these old scriptures into newer scriptures. They adapted the Sanskrit languages. Sanskrit is a language amongst one of the oldest languages on earth. That's called Sanskrit. So they adapted that, and one could even say they modernized it. So their book, that was born out of these 10 generations of gurus, is called the Guru Granth Sahib. Beautiful big book, kind of like their Bible, one could say. The difference, though, is one of their core teachings is describing God in its fullness is impossible, so we'd rather sing to it. So their way of praying and praising life, God, Source, the universe, is by singing to it and attempting to describe, but also surrendering and knowing they will never be able, and we will never be able as humans, to fully comprehend and describe what God truly is in its vastness, in its fullness, in its wholeness. So, why I resonate with this is because I love the concept that was born out of their analysis and their comprehension, looking at different religions that existed before them: Christianity, Hinduism, the Hare Krishna movement, many, many, many more. And what they did is they cross compared, and instead of judging either or any of those religions that existed before them, they got inspired and they started summarizing and essentializing, observing what was aligned and alive in all of them. And they drew a sort of parallel between them all. And the parallel between them all is that there is a soul evolutionary journey. There is a journey towards something that we can call more love, more peace, more grace, more kindness, more joy, more acceptance. And whenever that integrates, we move towards enlightenment. The light bulb goes on and we realize what and who we truly are. And so, why I greet you with the word Sat Nam? Sat Nam stands for your truth or eternal truth. And if your truth is love and everlasting joy, I greet that part of you. I greet the soul when I say Sat Nam. Now, again, throughout this whole podcast, I'll be using words from different Vedic traditions, from different old scriptures and Sanskrit words, and I'll do my best to always translate them for you so you know what we speak of here. Now, we started with Sat Nam, truth and eternal truth. And I believe there was another thing I wanted to mention, but it left my mind for a moment, so maybe it wasn't that important. Yeah, this is also something that you'll notice in these podcast episodes. The stream of consciousness that's going to come through is raw, real, authentic, and in the moment. These are not deeply edited episodes. These are just pure, raw human consciousness streams happening in real time. Of course, recorded for you, but if there's any mistakes that are happening along the way, I'll leave them in for you here and there so you can have a laughter with me. So that was the introductory to the podcast for the soul. There's many more episodes to come. Each episode will lean in a layer deeper into a specific topic. Of course, any questions that arise within you that you'd love to have more clarity on, you can always send them over to me. You can connect with me through the website academyforthesoul.org. You can connect with me through Instagram at Academy for the Soul, or you can connect with me per email, june@academyforthesoul.org. Simply send some questions, say hi, share what you loved about this episode or other episodes to come, and let's stay connected from this moment forward. Sending you oceans and oceans of love. Have a beautiful day or evening ahead. Sat Nam.